This is Eastmans Elevated podcast. I have on great guests that are really knowledgeable, consistently successful. We're able to dive deep down the rabbit holes of these different subject matters of shooting, of physical fitness, of mental toughness and drive. All the different skills that make up a complete hunter that you can become.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? Got a brand new podcast for you. So this week, this is one I'm excited to release to you guys. I've been trying to put this together for a while. So this is Mike Deming is the guest for today's show. So, I don't know if you guys have heard of him or not, but he's just a consistent killer, and he's just been getting it done for years on Western game. And so he's just got such a huge knowledge base, and he's just a super guy too. I really enjoyed getting to meet him, enjoyed having him on the podcast and the different conversations we had. So he's definitely a guy I'm going to keep in contact with and try to put a hunt together with. But the podcast is super. You guys will really enjoy it. It's on the longer side of things. I think it goes about an hour and a half with the intro or the ending, but just a great conversation all the way through and through. Sponsor for today's show is Zamberlan Boots. So I've been using Zamberlan now for the last couple of years. They build such high quality boots that they keep waterproof. They're made with fine Italian leather. They're made lightweight. And I really like using like a lightweight hiker for mountaineering, and they just have the perfect fit. So this year I'm trying out the new 320 trail lights, and I think they're going to be a great fit for the mountains and also getting the lightweight that I like. I've also used the 1000 Baltoro GTXs. They're a little bit higher of a boot, but a solid mountaineering boot. And I use them in the wintertime. They're really good in the snow and seem to keep my feet warm. But they just got a great selection of boots. You can find something that fits you and the type of hunting you do. So Zamberlan Boots, thanks for them for sponsoring the podcast. Also today, we're brought to you by Yeti. Yeti has just changed the way that I hunt. I didn't know that a high-end cooler would do so many benefits for, whether it's truck hunting or even hunting wilderness, and just having a cooler full of ice so when I get out of the mountains, I can store meat. And it helps me like hunting with buddies where, we may have two tags and one guy fills out, and he's able to hike his meat back and then ice it down in the cooler and keep it for days on end, so the other guy can continue to hunt. And it cools that meat down so quick. And hunting during the bow season where it's hot a lot, it's so essential to keep your meat and get it cooled down quick. So Yeti coolers have just changed the way I hunt. I've got a new soft-sided cooler that I'm really excited about. So when I fly to places like New Zealand or Hawaii, this is how I'm going to get my meat back home. You can use it as a carry-on on the planes, freeze your meat solid, and then it'll stay frozen solid on the plane ride. So super excited about that. They also have thermoses, cups, where they call it tumblers and ramblers. I use that thermos. My coffee stays hot all day. So just a bunch of great products. So thanks to Yeti for sponsoring the podcast. And with that, let's get this conversation rolling. Oh, I got what we got going on at Eastman's. I almost forgot. So that Nevada episode that I did, it came out. Be on the lookout for it on the Outdoor channel. DVR it, or let's see. I'll get the nights and times and put it on the next podcast. But it's a really good episode. I'm really proud of the way it turned out. We got great Beyond the Grids coming out. The magazine, I just had an article I wrote in there. Super pumped about it. And the articles in the magazine, the pro staff articles, I really enjoy writing them. I really enjoy reading them. I get so many benefits out of our staff writing articles. And then I also enjoy our members' articles. They're getting so good at writing these things. And I'm picking up podcast guests just from, some of these articles that are being written and submitted. And I'm trying to put one together right now with Sean Morgan, which would just make a great podcast. He killed that great cover buck on the last one. So if you guys aren't a subscriber, you can subscribe by texting Elevated 319 to 22828. It'll get you both magazines for $29.99 and get you the free MRS book. It's the other thing with subscriptions. That MRS section is so valuable. I've been using it for years just to get a feel of these different states, the hunts, where the quality is, the type of terrain. It's just an awesome resource for us Western hunters. So, again, you can text Elevated 319 to 22828. And also, guys, I really appreciate the support on this promo code. So, it just ties back to the podcast and shows the support, that we have in the community that we're building. So it really goes a long ways for me. So thanks a bunch, guys. I appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get into this podcast. So I really enjoyed this one. It's me and Mike Deming, Eastmans Elevated. Here we go. All right, I'm live here with Mike Deming. We've been trying to make this happen for a while. So you've been friends with the Eastmans, with Ike and Guy for years now. Thanks for being on, Mike. I really appreciate it.
You bet. I appreciate the invite. Yeah, I've been friends with those guys for, I don't know, seems like 2 decades. I think it's 15 years. I started Sportsman's News 15 years ago now. So I know I've been friends with them since the very beginning because I reached out and said, hey, we've got some mutual interests now, and I'm kind of doing what you guys do. And so that's kind of how that started. And we've talked a lot, shared a lot of information back and forth, and making sure that doesn't all get published.
Some on the record, some off, right?
Correct, man. You don't want to give up your honey hole all the time.
Yeah, that's it. Well, no, I'm just really excited to have you on. I really enjoyed our interactions back and forth, and we've been trying to put this together for a while. But the problem is that I hunt so much and you hunt so much, like trying to get our schedules connected has been tough.
Yeah, full year last year that it could never just hook up. I mean, we need September and October to be about 90 days long, and I'm sure it probably still wouldn't be enough. We'd figure out how to fill it up and go chase big mule deer and big elk.
Yeah, well, I think you're the one guy that hunts as much or maybe even more than I do. It seems like you're always on a trip somewhere. We actually ran into each other in New Zealand. I was hopping on a plane in New Zealand, and I had a text pop up on my phone, and it was Mike Deming, and he says, hey, are you in New Zealand right now? I said, yeah, and he says, I'm sitting right in front of you on the plane.
Yeah, I saw the back of your head there. I'm like, man, that really looks like Brian. What are the chances of him being headed to the South Island in New Zealand? And we can't hook up on the Skype or anything else in the States, but we can hook up in the South Island of New Zealand.
Yeah, that was wild. But we had a good conversation there while we were waiting for our bags and then kind of put this together. So, yeah, I'm just excited to get you on. Our passions just align. You love big mule deer and big elk and hunting bears and also international hunting, running into you in New Zealand. Yeah, that was something through Sportsman News, right, where you were doing the video work for those guys. What is that program, Mike?
So actually, Sportsman's News is the official publication of Sportsman's Warehouse. That was a venture that I started 15 years ago when I got out of mortgage banking. I sold my mortgage company in Las Vegas, Nevada, 16 years ago, and I didn't make enough money to retire, so I knew I needed to go do something, and I was passionate about hunting and fishing, camping, the outdoors, so my grandfather always told me, figure out how to make money doing what you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. So I looked at all kinds of different things, and I had talked to some local guys here that had a small publication called Southern Utah Outdoors, and they asked me, are you interested in buying into this or, being a partner? So having a finance background, I said, yeah, sure, send me all your financials and thing. And I looked at everything pretty thoroughly. And when it got all said and done, I said, man, you guys really don't have a viable business to buy. Your distribution costs are through the roof. And, my business and analysis mind went to work. And I said, if you guys could figure out a way to do what you do and get a better distribution source, you actually are onto something. And one of the guys said, hey, what about putting it into Sportsman's Warehouse? And I mean, this is back in '03. So I have no idea what Sportsman's Warehouse was. I think at that time there was maybe 4 or 5 stores and just up and comers. So I started doing a little bit of research. 15 years ago, we think about just getting on Google and checking stuff out. That wasn't as readily available at that point in time. Either that or my redneck behind just wasn't as thorough in being able to research stuff. So I found out a little bit about Sportsman's Warehouse. I talked to some outfitters that had bought some stuff there and some friends. They knew the owner of that. So I entertained that idea of let's go try and make something work with these guys. And we did all that stuff, and it worked absolutely perfect. It took about 6 months to get it launched and off of the ground and get all the publications dialed in. And I basically kept 2 of those partners that were involved in that other publication, and we were able to get that stuff done, and it was just awesome. We moved forward, and after doing that for about 15 years, I guess it was to about 11 years at the time, I had hunted and fished and done just about everything I could possibly imagine doing. And I thought, wow, this would be really good if we could give some trips away and have other people go do that. Well, I knew that I could obviously give tons of trips away, but we needed to help cash flow that. Some of these trips, like you just went to New Zealand, you know what that costs to get down there, just airfare alone, $1,500, $2,000, and that's just out of the gate. So we started what we called was the Pro Membership Sweepstakes and started a membership-based program. Basically costs $300 a year. We give away over $350,000 a year worth of trips, guns, and gear. But what it allowed me to do, it allowed me to go film and be with these people as winners, do world-class trips, gather the content that I needed to gather, and just go have fun. I didn't always have to be the shooter, and I didn't have to be on the road as much being the hunter. So that was enjoyable to me. So that's kind of evolved. We've been into that 4 years now, but that's how I ended up in New Zealand. That was like the 3rd time we've given away trips down there. So I was down there with 2 different winners. We were shooting a red stag, 2 of them, as well as a tar. So it worked out really good. We had a great time, and that's why I ended up in New Zealand.
Oh, how cool. And while you're talking about it, how do guys get in on some of these drawings? Is it through Sportsman's, or how do they to put their name in the hat? Like, so many tags and hunts nowadays are given away through these raffles. That is, if you can get your name in a bunch of hats, you got a chance to win one of these next level, adventures that you guys are putting on.
Absolutely. Well, we started up a whole separate email address and website for the whole deal, and it's promembershipsweepstakes.com. Somebody can log on there. We don't ask for a ton of information. It's cost. We did a monthly option as well as an annual option, $297 a year or $27 a month. I grew up from a family that was really, really poor. I mean, when we would go out and go scout for elk or deer or do something over a weekend, we would drive until we had a half a tank of gas, and that was it. You got out and parked and walked because we didn't have enough money to get back. If not, there wasn't just more money to go do that. So when I was developing this, I kind of did it for that guy to be able to go. If he won a trip, he could truly go do a trip of a lifetime. Because when I was a kid, I grew up in Colorado. We got the Colorado Outdoors and Outdoor Life, and when that thing would show up in the mail that day, I would sit down and just read it cover to cover, and that was my passion. And I was raised by my great aunt and uncle pretty much, and my aunt said, if you would just study your school books to that extent, you would really do well and you'd have a career, because you're not going to make any money hunting and fishing. So I kind of did that to prove her wrong.
Well, it's like the advice that your grandfather gave you, do something that you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. And it is like finding your passion and figuring out what it is, but then it's just working towards it, but you can make anything out there happen. We have such opportunity out there, and I'm the same way. As I was I just ate up like the outdoors. I moved straight after high school from Washington to Montana for more outdoor opportunities, and then I just ate it up. I ate, slept, breathed, bow hunting. I absolutely loved it, and I spent all my time doing it or working to get better at it and gathering information, like you say, I mean, the Eastmans was huge. I mean, it's part of the reason why I work for him now is, as a kid, I would just get these magazines and I'd just eat them up. And it wasn't the day and age of the internet like you talk about. Research was a lot tougher. Information was a lot tougher to find and figure out. And there wasn't many guys out with a bow trying to hunt high country mule deer. Now there was guys doing it, but there just wasn't a lot of publications telling you how to do it or where to go or how to find it. But those were the good old days. Man, that was fun, just chasing my passion.
Yeah, and nobody wanted to share those honey holes. They'd give you a little bit of advice. You spend hours talking to biologists and different people. And, the sad thing is about it, once you start doing it yourself, you realize that most of those biologists spend more time sitting behind their desks than they did out in the field. So you're like, how good is this information? And you're trying to, you got to drive 15, 18 hours to go scout somewhere. And you're like, wait a minute, this data doesn't work. So you totally got to depend on really good friends and getting out there and burning boot leather, to say the least. And the internet has really changed a lot of that. There's a lot of people out there posting stuff and having your photos show where you're at. Some people haven't figured out how to turn that stuff off. And
that's right. You take a picture with your iPhone, it has in the picture data it has your waypoint of where that picture was taken, right?
Yeah, no, I'd really like that for people who haven't figured out how to turn that off yet.
Well, and it's changed and evolved, but the essence of it is still the same. Even though there's more information out there, there's more guys doing it, and everybody has that information now. So you have to continue to work hard and continue to evolve in this new age to find trophy critters and to find, those locations and spots that grow those mature animals. So it's evolved and changed, but back in the olden days, like you could go to any good mule deer spot and find mule deer just because there wasn't as many guys doing it. There wasn't as many guys researching, and you had to figure it all out off maps and compasses, and you'd have to drive so many miles down a road to know when you were in public. It was a lot tougher to figure out where you were at, but it made for good hunting. But now in this new age, it's just evolved where you just have to continue, like the formula, the equation is still the same. Hard work and effort, and you put that into an area or a species, and you get that out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We hunt a unit in Colorado, which shall remain nameless at this point in time. But there is a bunch of people that, they see the bucks that we've killed over there over the years. And every year I get tons of phone calls from people like, where are you hunting, what unit? And we'll talk about that. And sure enough, they'll show up over there on second season. And, day 1, day 2, day 3, we'll meet in town. And I try to give them some pointers on where to go. Anybody that's going to go to that extent, I try to share enough information with them. And, by about day 4, they're ready to throw in the towel and just go home. And, one guy specifically that had came over there and hunted, and he hunted 2 years in a row. The first year he didn't get one. And the second year, he shot a fairly small buck. And we met at the gas station when it was time to pull out of there. And we had done really, really well. We'd killed a buck my buck was a 199 and like 4/8. We'd killed a 182, a 187, and a 177 buck. And they were all underneath the tarp of my truck. And he said, well, how did you guys do? I like to see, can I see the bucks you guys killed? And I pulled the tarp back, and I thought he was going to go into cardiac arrest right there at the gas station. And, he thought that I was holding out, and I ended up killing one of those bucks on the day before the last day, which was a place I had actually sent him to. And he texted me later and said, yeah, there's just nothing over there. And, those big bucks, they spend no time on their feet. I don't know if they get poached or if just the excess pressure from over-the-counter elk tags is over there enough that I just haven't figured it out. What I do know is that the bucks that I've killed in that unit, I always find bedded, and I find them at 2 or 3 miles away with my optics. And then we sneak in. I'm not trying to do like you do and bow hunt them. We're hunting them with a rifle second season, and a lot of those deer we're killing at 500 or 600 yards because they lay in a place where the wind swirls, and I'm not sure you could get on them bow hunting. Obviously during this time of year, maybe with the the different wind that you have in September time frame, you might pull it off, but We've killed a lot of really big deer over there. I think we've killed five. I've personally killed 5 bucks in the 90s and um, 9 bucks over 180 in the last 12 or 13 years there.
Oh, that's incredible, Mike. That's why I wanted to get you on the podcast. Yeah, well, it's not just the areas and big mature deer and elk. They live in the majority of units across the West, but it's not only the spots, it's how you hunt the spots, and it's your hunting skill and your instincts, and it's everything combined. It takes years to develop that hunting skill and that glassing skill and locating animal skill. And so, like you say, you can point guys in the right direction, but it's also the way you hunt it. It's the way you move through country, the vantage points you get, being on the vantage points at the right time, believing in the process. Like, all that has to combine to be able to locate those bucks and then harvest those bucks. And it's so difficult, such a high degree of difficulty, whether with a bow or with a rifle. During rifle season, like, there's a lot more pressure, and those bucks don't have the lax alpine attitude, nor are they in the rut. They're in that pre-rut, which is the toughest time to kill a big mature buck, because, like you say, he's just not on his feet during daylight hours very much. You just have a very small window to catch him in the morning or to catch him in the evening. In that secondary living, they just get in that thick cover, and they're tough to pick out. So I mean, it's all credit to your hunting skill and the years of hunting that you've put in to develop your skill set to be able to harvest those bucks.
Well, thanks, man. One of the things that we really did learn about those mule deer, and going back year after year, like, I killed that 198 buck that year, and he was with a buck that was mid 170s, 29 inches wide, just a nice heavy horn mature deer. You just needed a couple more years on him, and lo and behold, went back in there, looked at him the next year. He was within 200 yards of where I'd killed that 198 buck. He still hadn't done much, and we looked at him. And the next year I hunted somewhere else, but I took a buddy in there, and we went over there and we killed that buck, and he was in the mid 190s again. Or that year he'd blown up enough where he'd put on 15, 20 inches, and same thing. We shot him within 400 yards of where I'd shot that 198 deer. So you just watch deer grow up, and they're with other mature deer. They're there for a reason. So I noticed that hunting the same unit year in and year out really helps with that standpoint. When we're hunting a unit that's second season, it doesn't cost a tremendous amount for a landowner voucher, and you're going to draw it every third year. And the other thing with it being Colorado, it's an over-the-counter elk tag. So if I can't generate a landowner voucher, I cannot hunt draw the tag. I'm not going to miss a year in the unit. I'm going to go over with an elk tag, and I'm going to look around, and I'm looking, hopefully I kill an elk and fill the freezer. We're usually not finding something too big, other than we've killed some, buck bulls over there in the 340s on an over-the-counter tag. But I'm looking for big mule deer. That's my true passion, and I'm trying to find good mature bucks with up-and-comer bucks, because guaranteed they're going to be in that area, next year, second season, the year after that, second season, unless somebody kills them. So I know that the better the inventory I have of big deer and up and coming deer, the better chance I have of consistently being consistent year in and year out. And I don't want to wait, 15, 20, 30 years to be able to draw a tag for some of these premium limited entry units. A lot of people want to do that. And I get it when you can't spend, the dollars or the time or the vacation. But just because you're waiting to hunt that doesn't mean that unit, the Paunsaugunt, the Henry Mountains, the Arizona Strip, they get hunted every year. And since they're the most sought after unit, they get hunted by the best hunters in the world each and every year. So if you're not in there every year, you've got your work cut out for you. When you do burn that 20, 25 points to get in and draw that tag, you better hire an outfitter or guide or be able to spend that hunting season there every year, because somebody else is in there and they know what those bucks are doing during the rut. They know what they do during the drought. They know what to do when they have excess pressure, when you get early freezes. There's so many things that affect those animals and the way they move. And if you're not in tune with that, you're not going to get one of those big deer.
Yeah, it's such a great point. Like, when you wait to hunt these units, you have to also be building your skill set. So when you do draw one of those units, you can go in and figure it out and find a way to be successful. But yeah, that's the best way to hunt trophy deer. Like a lot of the units that I hunt, pulling 180, 190, and 200-inch deer out of are 0-point units, 1-point unit, 2-point units. Like I want to be able to hunt it often and learn it. And you're right, these bucks, they grow up. They're animals of habit, right? And so to be a mature buck, they found a drainage that they can live in the early season, and they live in this drainage and they know it like the back of their hand, and they survive in there. And same thing with mid-season. They find this mid-season feature where they're able to grow up to be 5, 6, 7 years old. And so the more of these bucks you can locate and kind of know where they're hanging, then you can go in and check in on them, or you find different bucks that live in that area. But I also find it true for like the rut, hunting like Eastern Montana. There's 19,000 non-residents. Everybody can hunt Eastern Montana. It's got big populations of mule deer. They're not known to get real big out there because they don't get to grow up to, those older age classes. They get shot at 3 and 4. But what I found is these bucks, they find a drainage that they can rut in that's away from the roads, that's tough to glass, that's a tough feature to get to, and all of a sudden that buck will go there and rut year after year, and then you find some of these spots, and then you start finding these 5-year-old deer, these 6-year-old deer, and 7-year-old deer. And Eastern Montana isn't known for growing giants, but I found these areas and these drainages that these bucks rut year after year where they grow up and get mature because there is less pressure in there. So you're so right. It's about putting in your time in these units and really learning from them. And I find that these animals travel the same trails, the same saddles, they bed in the same areas, they feed in the same features year after year. And so once you can start to identify those, you can also take that information and then you transpose it to another feature on the mountain and go, this basin faces the same way. It kind of has the same look. I'm going to go into this drainage and go check that out. And then you just start adding to your knowledge base of that unit. All of a sudden you find another drainage that the bucks like to hang out. Now you got options, and I just think that's the biggest key to hunting out west and learning stuff, for yourself.
Yeah, get in the game, man. You got to play the game year in and year out, whether it's Montana, Colorado, Utah, the places where you can get a tag every year. That's just so important. I get so sad for the people that just want to sit down and wait to build points all the time and just hope that once I build those points, I'm going to find that buck of a lifetime. And, it's not to say that it's not possible. There's some units that are managed for that, but there's not many places you're going to be able to drive around and shoot a 180 type buck out of the truck, and it's just a challenge.
Man, that's the truth. It's a challenge, and it takes a commitment level too. Like for me, learning all these states and all these units, and I love exploring new country, and so, but it comes easy to me, but it doesn't. It's so much time and effort, It's time down there scouting. It's time looking over the maps and the Google Earth, and then it's driving down there and paying the gas money and hiking into the mountains. And it's also, you put a lot of effort in and go into a spot, and sometimes you don't find a buck in there. You strike out. It looked good on the maps, but when you go and put your eyes on the country, the bucks don't like it for some reason. And I may strike out 2, 3, 4. Like I know in Montana, I looked at 10 different mountain ranges and hiked in them looking for high country mule deer before I finally found a mountain range that had a huntable population of mature deer. Like that's the type of effort it takes to find these spots.
And those, well, that's one thing that I get a lot with what we do with the pro membership sweepstakes is I give away mostly guided hunts, and some of the pushback I get with some of these people are like, well, we don't really want to do a guided hunt. We don't need to do a guided hunt. And you talk about the effort and the time that it takes, and when you're building houses and doing stuff like that, you gotta, especially up where you live, you got 6 months to work when winter's not set in. You got to make the most of that. So in some cases, I do find that it's good to hire a guide if it's too time restraining to go truly scout it, especially if it's a unit that you are going to burn a lot of points in, and it's taken you, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 in application fees and hunting license fees over the years to get to that. And you don't have time to go scout that, or you haven't had time to scout it during that season for multiple years. I don't mind hiring a guide. So that's kind of what I tell the guys, like, well, I don't need a guide. And I'm willing to hire a guide when I can't do that, especially when gas prices are, creeping up $3, $4 a gallon. It doesn't take too many scouting trips to start getting up there where it costs what it takes to do a guide fee. And the other thing is I learn a lot. I've done a lot of guided hunts with the pro membership sweepstakes. I've done a lot of guided hunts when I was a banker and I didn't have the time to go do that stuff. And you're hunting with somebody who kills between, 30, 40, 50, 100 animals a year, and they've done it for decades on end. I have become a way better hunter hunting with some of those guided guys and outfitters that they just knew, and I might learn something. I also might learn something that they don't know what they're doing and they're not any good. And that's how we came up with our endorsed outfitter program and the pro membership sweepstakes, where we're buying the best hunts with the best outfitters during the best time. So it's not bad to hire an outfitter sometimes if you can't go do what you're doing and spend weeks on end down there scouting. It takes a lot of time, especially when you got little ones at home and you're an absentee dad because you want to go chase big stuff. It doesn't always go over well, so it's better to write that check occasionally.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, Mike. Like it is taboo, like us Western hunter, do it yourself, public land, like that is the prize, and it's something that I cherish, and success means so much to you when you do accomplish it, but you have to put so much into it, and all of our lives, we're all individuals and it's all structured different, and you're right, some people have more money than they have time, or they have a little bit of extra money that they've saved for their hunting budget, but they might not be able to scout for a month, 2 months, 3 months to be able to find these locations. And if they draw a good tag, like it could be a tag that took them 15, 20 years to draw, and they want to go in and be successful there, but with their limited amount of time, it's going to be a high degree of difficulty to go down, or it's going to be really difficult for them to go down there and be successful. And you're right, hiring a guide, like it's not like you have somebody holding your hand the whole time. It's like basically, you hire a guy, but he's so knowledgeable, like you say, hundreds of animals, and he knows that terrain intimately. Like he's scouted it, he's hunted it for years, he knows the patterns of the animals. And it's pretty much just like teaming up with them as a buddy. And like you say, to pay one guide fee, that might be the smartest move out there, is to go be guided for a high country mule deer or a mule deer someplace, just because of the knowledge gain, like you say. Like you get to learn from this guy and shorten your learning curve. You could shorten 5 years off your learning curve by going with somebody that really knows how to glass and really knows how to hunt this terrain and stalk this terrain. You guys team up as buddies. You pay this fee one time. You get to use all this information gained on your future hunts. So you're right. It's a bit taboo of a subject, but I don't think it's a bad thing to hire a guide when you draw a good tag or when you want a good hunt, especially if you don't have the time or don't have, the time to learn a unit and give it the effort it deserves.
Yeah, people don't really realize how much time it does take to learn that. You can only learn so much on Google Earth, and I love that resource. But like you said before, when you finally make the commitment, I've got my maps out, I'm printed, I'm ready to go. I go down there, you got all kinds of stuff dialed in, and you've made 10 different trips to Montana. They're looking for a place, and the deer didn't always get the knowledge that this was a really good area on Google Earth. They don't have Google Earth. So they've got to figure out, okay, this is where I go. So it takes a lot of time to go do that. And, hey, time is money. And tell that to your kids when you're going to be gone all the time. I'm as passionate about going out and chasing that big stuff as anybody else. But there are certain times when your daughter looks at you and says, hey, are you going to make it to the dance recital this time, Dad? It's like, wow, I really need to go find that big buck because I burned a lot of points for this. And they bat those big blue eyes at you, and you just got to say, no, I'm going to stay home this time. So.
Yeah, it's part of it's part of, like, we want to be better hunters and next level hunters, but I also want to be a better and next level dad. Like, that is so
Yeah.
important to me, you know. And you're right. Like, you could put your head down and work for a couple weeks at your job and save that money and buy a guide, or you can spend, you know, or maybe you've got the time to spend 2-3 weeks down in a unit and take that off in the summertime, and then also get your time off during hunting season. So it's you know, you got to look at what's right for you and what makes sense for you. But you're right, we got to be there for our kids, and that especially trying to hunt a unit that's 12 hours away or 20 hours away, it's just hardly feasible.
Yeah, for sure. I've did I lose you?
No, no, I got
Oh,
you.
I thought I lost you there. Um, I've got 26 points for Nevada, and I am up applying this year for elk. I've applied numerous times. I have absolutely the worst luck known to man. So, but is very close to me, so I can spend a weekend over there scouting really easy. But will you wait for that year in that you're going to get that really good opportunity? This could very well be that year that we draw that elk tag. But 26 points to burn for an elk tag. If it wasn't as close as it is, I would definitely, hire a guide from that standpoint. And we've got an outfitter that we do stuff with over there, and he's become a really good friend. We send a lot of people his direction, and they kill a lot of really big bulls. But I'm going to do my very best to do that on my own. But if somebody throws me a lead over there on a bull that's 390 plus, says I'm going to bow hunt it. That's my true passion I do like to bow hunt elk, or I'll do any mule deer with any weapon available as long as I can hunt big ones. But elk hunting with a bow when they're screaming and ripping and roaring is pretty exciting, especially when you can chase some really big ones. And Nevada, with the moisture and stuff we're having this year, it could very well be a year that we see some monsters come out of there. So I'm pretty rewarded when I can actually go do a do-it-yourself hunt. It's my passion, and I'm going to call in all those favors from all those friends that I've gave data to over the years when I didn't draw a tag. So now it's time to expand the network.
Yeah, I'd say it's time to cash in on that. Well, hopefully this is the year you draw. Like, I think this year's like a 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 for especially those drier places like Nevada. It's going to grow some giant bulls this year. And you're right, that is the most thrilling hunting going, with a bow and arrow chasing bulls during the rut. It's as good as it gets.
Yeah, when you can hunt a state like Nevada, I mean, have you had an opportunity to hunt Nevada for elk at all?
No, I haven't. I'm the same as you, where I'm building points. I hunt Nevada for deer quite a bit, just getting real aggressive with my applications and drawing bow units down there. But no, I haven't had the chance for elk yet, but I really want it.
Man, there is a lot of elk in that state. But what's really surprising to me is uh, most states there's more bow tags than there is rifle tags usually. Nevada, I think I'm vying for one of 45 archery tags, whereas a non-resident there's almost triple that for rifle tags. But I don't want to do it with a rifle. I'm going to do it with a bow. And even though the bow season's not exactly ideal there, it's like August 16th to September 12th. So not what one would think is the heat of the rut, but it tends to be pretty good on the later side of things. If I can, scout, and I've got some good bulls on my hit list already that, if they didn't get killed and they show up, it's time to start looking here in another 60 days and see what we can find, see if they made it, and see if we can. I hate to say that 400 number, but that's a really big one, and that's what I'd like to put an arrow in and kind of my target. Go big or go home, and I don't mind if I have to eat the tag. That's one that I'd like to hunt most of the 28, 29-day season they have to offer or at least until I get a bull of that caliber. It sure is fun when you can play the game with something like that and it's there.
Oh, isn't it? Like, that's like the funnest thing for me too. I always say worth the price of admission, but yeah, to have that attitude of I'm either gonna kill a giant or I'm gonna go home with my tag and be okay with that. That's what I've started to transition into too. Is just to have an opportunity at those big ones. It's worth passing, a bull that I've already killed or a size that I've already killed, just to have the chance at it. And a tag like that, Nevada, you've been waiting years for it. You're right. You have the best attitude, that you can go and hunt the entire season, and if you don't kill one and you put all your effort forth, you're going to be okay with it, or at least that's the way I would feel.
Absolutely. I had a tag here in Utah on the beaver in 2010. It was a pretty good moisture, actually almost too good of a moisture year, if that makes any sense. And it didn't to me at the time because we were just getting pounded with rain. It was nonstop. You'd go to the high country in July and August before it kicked off, and literally fields where I would, high country open meadows where I would normally see elk. I wasn't seeing elk. And one day I sat there all evening and got back in there the next morning, and I just couldn't figure out what the deal was. Well, what I didn't understand is looking at this thing from a mile and a half away, the grass was so tall that the biggest bulls, you could barely see the tips of their antlers coming out of the grass. And I didn't realize that till I went down there to hang a trail camera to see if they were skirting it or what they were doing. And I realized that, that mountain meadow had turned into a jungle. And later that year, I ended up hunting 28 days of that season. I was after a couple of really big bulls that I knew were there. We had a big, huge fire in the north end of the unit. It pushed those two big shooter bulls over onto the Pavant, and they got killed with rifle hunters. And the bull I was chasing in the south I felt was over 400. I never saw him again. But a lot of the bulls that were known bulls were 15 or 20% smaller, and it made no sense to me because we had so much grass. And that year I hunted Texas, and I spent the majority of the time hunting with the guy that was the ranch manager there. And he had a biology degree, and he had told me that in a situation like that a lot of the forage that they're eating is filler. That grass has the most nutritional value when it's just coming out of the ground. And when it's getting absolutely pounded nonstop like that, and that grass is, 2, 3, 4 foot tall, yeah, they're eating, but it does not have the nutritional value in it to really grow the antlers. And I'm sure that that's obviously just one piece of the puzzle. They had to come out of winter in good body health and everything that goes into that. But that was something that was really concerning. And I hope I don't get a chance to see that this year. Knowing Nevada, it's going to, June's going to get here. It's going to get 115 degrees. And, the forage they get, they're going to be scrounging for it. It'll be good nutritional value. But that was some really interesting information to hear from that biologist guy in Texas on what we were dealing with that year. And I ate the tag. And that whole time I was so focused on a number and that number for me that year was 380. I just wasn't going to shoot anything less than that. I realized at the end of the season, I didn't enjoy the hunt as much because I put a number on. I didn't enjoy the experience. And, that was, 9 years ago. I'm 51 years old now. I have a little bit different outlook on things now than I did. I'm not so concerned on a number as I am enjoying the experience. I think we put a lot of emphasis on number. I care about shooting something old and mature and something that's beat out a lot of people. But, if he doesn't make that specific number, he can't make it. I'm not 6'5" and 280 pounds either. I'm probably a pretty big disappointment to a lot of people, but if I can find a big, massive, mature animal that's beat a lot of people, that's a win in my eyes.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. Like, we get so goal orientated that sometimes we take the fun out of it. And in my younger years, I was so goal orientated where I had to arrow a big buck and he had to score 180 or better. And I just put so much pressure on myself that I wasn't enjoying the experience as much as I should, where I've kind of changed my perception on it, where, I'm just going to go, and you're so much more effective when you relax and you take in the experience and you don't put that pressure on yourself. Success just seems to come. You seem to find those bucks and get plays at them and get chances at them. And you're a much better hunter when you can relax. And I still want to push hard and go hard and give it all my effort. But I just don't put that mental stress on me so much. And I take it in. I enjoy it and realize that I work all year long for this 1 week to go challenge myself in the mountains or whatever it is, the 2 weeks or, whichever tag or hunt I'm on. Yeah, I've waited all year. My family's sacrificing because I'm away. I'm sacrificing at work. I've got people handling. So I've made all this effort to go enjoy my time. I better immerse myself in the experience and take it all in. And so I've definitely done better at that the last, handful of years of just relaxing and let it come. And I seem to have more success because of it.
That getting long in the tooth starting to pay off now.
Yeah,
You're way
yeah.
younger than I am, so.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, what a wild hunt. And you bring up some good points with the fire. And we talked earlier about how these animals are creatures of habit and live in the same drainages. But every year the conditions are different, and it seems like Mother Nature or the hunt or the hunting gods or whatever you want to call it, it's always going to throw all these challenges and hurdles in front of you. No matter which hunt it is, it never goes perfect. You get on one of these hunts and all of a sudden you've been planning for it. And now it just rains for 8 days straight and snows in the high country and it fogs in. And so you just always have these challenges. Or if it isn't that, like maybe you got these lightning storms that are coming in every afternoon. And so then you can't camp on the peaks. You got to camp down. Or like you say, the moisture content where you would have thought that would have been the best year to draw that Utah tag. But now all of a sudden their horn growth is down. And so, you've got to look for the absolute exception to the rule instead of just a good bull that would have grown that big. Like you said, they grow 10 to 20 inches less. So no matter what tag you draw, what hunts you're going to go on, like you almost have to just prepare yourself for the challenges.
Yeah. You just make the most of the year that you have the tag in it and enjoy the experience. Too many people just don't enjoy the experience anymore. I see it with our younger generation that are out there. We're too busy doing selfies and doing all of that stuff and posting that stuff instead of enjoy what Mother Nature's put out there. It's big, beautiful country. You never know what you're going to see when you're sitting behind your glass or just enjoying that experience. We're back in the office enough that you can look at all the social media. You're not going to really miss anything that's not still going to be there when you get back. If you're sitting there looking at your phone, enjoy what's out there because it truly is beautiful experience, and the best times I've ever had have always been in the outdoors.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are struggling with that nowadays. Is a lot of people just want to show everybody what they're doing instead of actually enjoying what they're doing. And so yeah, to get away from that phone and to get away from social media, and like I like putting content out there and I like sharing with people, but there's a time and a place. I like to be out there and have that phone off and immersed in that experience. And when I'm focused on the task at hand, whether that's hunting a big buck, whether it's fly fishing a river, like just to take it in and just think to myself just for a sec, like you're out here and you're out here doing this, like this is as good as it gets. This is as much enjoyment in my life as it's just so enjoyable to get away from that phone and not always be focused on showing everybody what you're doing or telling everybody how cool you are, but actually being out there and enjoying it. And there's so much of my life that I never capture for social media because I'm too busy enjoying it, whether it's fishing a dry fly on the Madison with a salmon fly. Like, I don't want to take time to get on my phone or to show somebody I'm catching a fish. Like, I'm walking up and down those banks for 10 hours that day, watching that trout come up and rise on that fly and hit it like a white shark taking a seal. Like, it's so enjoyable to me that I just have to immerse myself in it. But yeah, I think we all need to do a better job of that, of really enjoying the journey, not the end goal. Not be so focused on that 180 buck that you don't enjoy all the moments or the 10 days leading up or the scouting leading up. Like, enjoy that whole wild ride that you're going to get out of that hunt to that end goal. And whether you get it or not, just enjoy that experience.
Yeah, it's so fun. You talk about not capturing it. And, recently I was on the road and I watched you film a show from elk, and I knew you were self-filming last day, and you arrowed that buck or bull elk that was coming out of his bed. I think you were in eastern Montana, and got that filmed on your own. And for somebody coming that films, oh my goodness, man, I truly appreciated the extent you went in to go do that. And unless somebody's self-filmed a spot and stalk on the ground hunt like that, nobody knows what goes into that. My hat's off to you. That was absolutely phenomenal. Fun to watch. You knocked it out of the park. I really enjoyed that. And hope you keep doing it, man. It was badass.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Yeah. Well, and it is really fun to capture, and you know better than anybody because you do a lot of filming and self-filming. It is a super high degree of difficulty. It's tough with a cameraman, much less
Yeah.
by yourself, but you almost commit to capturing it. And I think for me, it's a mix of capturing some hunts and then just going on some hunts for myself. So then, I kind of mix and match those. So when I go into a filmed hunt, I just have the mindset that I'm going to capture it and get this hunt on film, or I'm not going to kill something, and I just kind of immerse myself into like a different task at hand, like just trying to capture it all and put it all together. And it's so fun to be able to share with other people. But then by the time I'm done filming a hunt, I'm ready to get to a hunt and just worry about myself and hunting and moving in. So for me, it's a mix and match. But thanks a bunch, Mike. I really appreciate that.
You know what? I think that's what wears on me. I don't get to do very many of those hunts anymore where we just go hunt. I mean, I'll do a couple of waterfowl hunts a year, and we'll do a few fishing adventures that I won't film. I won't do it. I feel horribly guilty when we go somewhere and I'm not hauling the camera because I just know I'm going to capture, the most bizarre thing that's ever been out there that's going to be like, wow, that really is awesome. And it gives you the ability to share that stuff, but it's I wrestle with that every time I go out when I don't have a camera that's out there, and that's why I do enjoy the membership and going with winners because I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but I don't want to go shoot another 160-inch mule deer. Let that guy live, or a 150-inch whitetail or whatever. I'd rather see it live. I'd rather take photos of it. I'd rather take video of it, or I'd rather see somebody who's really going to walk up to that thing and go, oh my goodness, that is phenomenal. What a great animal. If you're going to take something's life, it should really mean something to you. It should be special. So for me, I would rather take photos, and having the sweepstakes, all of those types of trips that we go do and somebody wins that, I don't care what they shoot. If they're happy with it when we get there, and it could be a situation where we paid $12,000 for a mule deer and we have a 200-inch potential, and they see a 175-inch buck that's 30 inches wide and they're coming uncorked. You know what? Shoot it. If that's what trips your trigger, it's fun and it makes for really good video. We video about 70% of our winners. I try to go on about a dozen of the winners trips each and every year. I've done more. It's starting to wear on me. So we're kind of picking and choosing now some of the best ones. I'm going to go on like we gave away a brown bear hunt last year. Well, we gave it away 2 years ago to Kodiak Island. It was a $35,000 brown bear hunt. And the guy that won it is actually a TV personality guy out of Fort Collins, Colorado, Chad LaChance. He does a show called The Fishful Thinker. Super excited. He actually wrote an article for Eastmans where he killed a buck that was like a 216, 217 in eastern Colorado. So he's a really great fisherman, but he's a pretty accomplished hunter as well. But he won that in the drawing. He's been one of our members from the very beginning, and 3.5 years in, he wins a brown bear hunt and goes to Kodiak. And this guy was like a little kid getting out there, and we killed him a really big bear. Super exciting, and it was just unbelievable to share that experience with him. And I get to go on 10, 12, 13 trips like that a year that are brown bear hunts, big premium elk hunts, and I buy these trips. I know the outfitters. I know where we're going. I know their best trips. I paid full price for these. A lot of times that, some of these sweepstakes and giveaways and stuff, they're trying to do it as cheap as they can so they can get the most out of it. I want the content and I want the best experience known to man. So I know the outfitters. I know their best trips. I pay full price for them. I book them 2 to 3 years in advance. That Kodiak trip, I had to book the hunt. The minute we walked away from that, I had to book the hunt for 2022. That's how far out they are sold out to be able to get that trip again. But I know in 2022, when we go on that, we are going to get a world-class experience. And the person that draws it there's nothing better. It's just going to be so fun to be out there. We've got a trip that we're giving away, or we gave away here pretty recently, that I'm committed to doing every year. The San Juans here in southern Utah is, one of the best units in the state. it's a, $30,000 trip, and we give that away. Most of it's on private ground. So a lot of those bulls get from the San Juan that are the best of the best. After some pressure, archery season and muzzleloader season, they get pushed onto that private. We're going to have a chance to hunt those. So once again, we're going to have another hunter that's super, super excited to be on that trip, and possibly kill an absolute giant. Whatever he decides to shoot, it's his tag, it's his fun. I'm just going to be there to capture it. So I get to be on a lot of really good, exciting stuff with a lot of people that are really happy.
Man, that's legit. I got to get on that membership program. It's just like the more hats you can get your name in. And, I'm just a blue collar guy, but to have those opportunity at some of those hunts and have your name in the hat where you might get drawn, it's worth it. And I put so much into these states and raffles and into, I put a lot into my hunting to give myself those opportunities. But for me and for other average guys out there to be able to have a chance at a brown bear hunt or at that New Zealand hunt or at the San Juans, in private ground. And private ground, like it's not a bad thing. You get to go hunt the best country with the best animals in it with zero pressure. Like it's just you're in for it. Like there is so much great private ground out there that if you can get access to, you got some of the best hunting out there. Like public land is tough and there's still great hunting on public land. You just have to work really hard at it. But you can't you can't discount or you can't just look away from that private ground. When you get a chance to hunt it, you might get in and have the absolute best experience of your lifetime just because it is low hunting pressure where the animals want to be, and you're just getting access to some of the best country with the best critters. So, man, what an awesome opportunity. That does sound legit, Mike. I got to get in on your membership.
Well, we're gonna cap it at 2,500 people. Like I said, I started this to be able to gather content with people that are excited, because when you go do that, we're gonna get some really good content. It's like having the dollars to buy the best tag in the unit or in that state each and every year. So I want to keep really good draws. This isn't about making money for me. I left a banking career that if I was about making money, that was where it was at, because it was a heyday. It was growing really good. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And like I said, I don't feel like I've worked a day in my life. So for me, this is about having fun and being with people that they love and they're passionate about hunting. So I want to keep the draw odds really good. When we started out this thing in 2015, and it's amazing how hard it is to give something away. We had this idea in 2004 or late 13, and I thought, well, we'll go meet with the attorney, see what we need to do to get all the rules and stuff done. And by the time we got it ready to launch, I'd written the attorney almost $50,000 worth of money to get us legal in the states that we could be legal in, which is basically 48 states you can be a member in, and get this thing launched. And on top of that, I told my CFO that we were going to commit $300,000 out of reserved cash flow that we had set aside over the last couple of years, knowing this was coming, to be able to do this. Because I had to launch this thinking, okay, I may never have a member join up. Now, I didn't think that was going to be the case, because I had some close personal friends that knew it was coming and they knew what we were buying. And so I figured, okay, well, we'll get some members. We're not going to totally bleed, but I figured it would take us maybe 2.5, 3 years to get to where we had 1,000 members, which would cash flow. And it took us about 3.5 years to get to where we had 1,000 members at that point in time. And lo and behold, instead of giving away $300,000 worth of trips, guns, and gear, I moved it up to $350,000 in trips, guns, and gear. And most of these things we have to dedicate a year in advance, because we've got to advertise it a full year in advance. I just looked at the stuff for 2021 is basically what we're setting up for, because we'll advertise all the stuff. Like we just did a giveaway the other day on the 10th of April, or the 30th of April. I had to launch the stuff we're going to give away the 30th of April 2020. So I'm working on 2021. In 2021, the stuff I've got set up is we'll give away almost $460,000 worth of stuff there. So constant, more and better and more and better. That's just the direction we're going. And we're going to pick and choose, some of the trips we go on, we're giving away, more of those waterfowl hunts and upland bird hunts. But we've got, probably still a good $250,000 to $275,000 worth of those trips, like that elk hunt and a sheep hunt in Alaska, stone sheep hunt, brown bear hunt. You name it, there's some pretty good stuff on there, and somebody's going to be a winner. It seems like every time we pull the name out of the drum, and we video every one of those. I wanted to stay really, really transparent with what we're doing, and we invite everybody to, if you're in Cedar City when we happen to be doing a drawing, stop by. We'll blindfold you and let you pull the name out of the hat, and if it's yours, good luck. But we do that, and we video it, and then we email it out to all the members. We email out all of the shows that we do go film. So people are getting to see, 4 years in, all of the stuff that we've done and stayed consistent. So it's starting to grow pretty rapidly at this point in time. So I don't know how long it'll take us to get to 2,500 members, but when we get there, we'll cut it off, and you have to stand in line. So hopefully you're a member between now and then. I'd love to get a chance to go hunt with you, Brian.
Oh man, yeah. I'm sold. What a great vision. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out as soon as we get done with the podcast. But yeah, what a great vision. It's all calculated risk too, isn't it? But there is risk involved. Like when you came up with this idea and believed in it and committed to it, like you say, you don't know if you're going to be able to get enough members to even make it work or make it survive, or how many years it's going to take. But you just believe in a project, and it's like this podcast, like how long was it going to take me to be able to monetize it? How much effort was I going to have to put in effort, money, time to be able to grow it? But I believed in it, and I just believe in putting out really good content out there, and guys will be drawn to it. Guys will find it. But it's all calculated risk, and you have to put yourself out there to gain something, don't you?
Yeah, with risk, there's that potential for a reward, man. Thank goodness you didn't have to have everybody like me waiting for almost a year to get on here. You'd really be struggling, man.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, and that's a big part of it too, is getting guys like you on the podcast and having interesting conversations. And so, you are relying upon other people, which I've never been real good at relying upon other people. Like I want to take care of everything myself or do everything myself. And so, yeah, that was kind of, that was the tough challenge for me is now I have to reach out to guys and ask them to be on the podcast and ask them to share, knowledge that they've gained over years of putting in the hard work and effort. But it's been amazing, guys step up, and it goes both ways, where you help them out and they help you out, and it seems to all work out. But it's definitely risk when you start it. You're like, I don't know, I'm in my basement. I may get 10 people to listen to this podcast, but through good content, it just keeps growing, and through your program, like you thought about it, you came up with the best ideas for the program, you believed in it, and then like you say, you didn't go for these budget or discount hunts through these outfitters. You paid full price for them because you knew you wanted to get the absolute best experience for these guys and don't want to cut them short for their dollar. So, I think that's the reason why it succeeded and done well and going to continue to grow.
Yeah, it's always a challenge when you start out as going to make it. And it is, I think your belief, like you have with the podcast, you keep going. I know every time I'm on the road, I've got you plugged in, and I spend a lot of road miles. I'm about 40 to 50,000 road miles a year. So I've listened to a few of your podcasts on more than one occasion and multiple times over and over. And, I think like spending the hour and a half listening to a podcast is, I relate it to somebody, you're going to do a guided hunt. I'm going to get some information off of every one of those times that I sit down and listen to that is going to make me a better hunter, a better person, better human being in general. And if I only get one thing, it made me a better person. I mean, it's way better than running down the road, listening to music or doing something like that. I like and value the information, and the people you've had on the podcast are truly some world-class hunters that, have had some major success, and I learned something from every one of those guys and gals. I appreciate it immensely.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, it is like you get to gain knowledge. It's a great way to pass the time. And I think that's the true sign of intelligence is when you can learn something from everybody, just like you stated, Mike. Like I am constantly learning. I'm constantly trying to gather information. I'm constantly trying to get better and improve. And I think when you have that mindset in life, like you just you pick up so much along the way that does make you a better hunter, a better person, because you're willing to learn. You're willing to let even somebody that has less experience than you and hasn't been on as many hunts, you still can get something from the conversation and get something from them. So I really think that's a true sign of intelligence when you're constantly learning and evolving through life. And I never want to stop. I love.
No.
I love being able to learn and try to get better. Like I think that's what I really enjoy about life is just, and I love taking on new tasks and things to challenge myself and things that are difficult out there and things that I'm not good at. It's fun to take on those challenges as well. But I think that's the key to life. It's just to continually be learning.
Yeah, it gets rid of the arrogance and just realize you can learn something from everybody. Even my kids, 14, 16, and 19, I know that I can learn something from them, especially with electronics and technology. You go to the resource, they know how to figure everything out. And who cares what age they are, where they're at, anything. Listen to them and be receptive. You can learn something from just about everybody that's out there.
Yeah, and it's almost like letting your ego down a little bit too, like you have to let go of your ego, I guess, to be able to learn from some of these different people. But I think it's so important to just be humble, not have an ego or an arrogance about you. And, it's a fine line between arrogance and confidence. You definitely want to have confidence and believe in yourself, but you don't want to be arrogant thinking you know everything about everything. Like there's so much in the world to learn and so much about hunting to learn and to gather, and a lot of it's just all theories and experience and then knowledge gain. Like as far as I don't read too many scientific documentations like on mule deer. It's all my experience in the field and experience through my own eyes, or that I hear from somebody else that has experience. But yeah, it's kind of a wild theory, but I do think that's the way to approach life.
Yeah, it's amazing when you're, whether you're talking mule deer hunting or hunting elk, and you start getting that confidence to the point that it starts to maybe become a little bit arrogant. We all have it if we're good and get it done. And there's nothing like that to go out in the woods and you just know you got this all figured out. It all comes wired, calling elk or whatever it is, stalking mule deer. And all of a sudden you have one of those years that is, in my opinion, is just, you didn't need a piece of humble pie. You needed the whole pie. And the good Lord is going to dish it up to you whenever you need it to that extent. And I've had a few pies over my time frame. It's not as often anymore. I like a piece at a time now instead of just the whole pie.
Western hunting is so good at humbling you, isn't it? Just when you think you got it all figured out or you think you're dialed, like you'll just get conditions and things thrown in front of you, or you make mistakes or you do things, but it's constantly humbling you. I think that is a good thing, and it's why we enjoy it, is because it is so challenging and because it can humble you at any point in time. I think that's a lot of what the fun is too, is that each and every hunt, each and every year, you have to prove that you have what it takes and go out and harvest another one. Like the mule deer this year, that 200-inch buck, whether it's in Colorado or Wyoming or wherever I end up drawing, that 200-inch buck doesn't know that I've killed a handful of those, or it doesn't know that I've killed a bunch of 180s. Like I got to go out and locate a buck of that size and then take on one of the most challenging things that the West has to offer, trying to arrow a mature buck, and I have to prove it again and again, over and over, and that just isn't easy, and it can humble you each and every year, each and every hunt, and you have to be ready for it. But I think it's just preparing yourself to take on that challenge.
Yeah, he's got an extreme will to live, and he does not care about your trophy room one bit.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, those things just have a knack for making the right moves, and their instincts are so keen. I mean, they've evolved from thousands of years avoiding predators, avoiding mountain lions, which are way sneakier than I could ever hope to be. Like those cats, the way they sneak through that high country. So, they've evolved to avoid those predators and to bed in the right spots and instincts and their intuition. And, man, those big mature animals, even during the rut or even during the elk rut, even those big bulls having all those cows around them, they're more susceptible, but they still use all those years of instincts and intuition to make the right moves. Doesn't it always seem like those big bulls, they stop broadside right when they're behind a tree? Or,
Yeah.
like, how many times have you needed them to take one more step and you're at full draw and they don't take it? Like, there's got to be some sixth sense there or something, doesn't there?
Yeah, and they trust that sixth sense. They know that, hey, and I think they do know that I can only hold my bow at full draw for maybe 2.5, possible 3 minutes, because they're going to stand there for about 3 minutes and 2 seconds.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. Well, in drawing on those elk, like you talk about, that's your passion, hunting those elk with a bow. Like how many of those little nuances end up killing that bull or not killing that bull because of when you draw, like drawing when his head's behind a tree or when he's not looking at you or when he's coming through. There's so many nuances to learn to the stalk of mule deer or to the hunt of elk, being able to move and flow with the herd, and then, having your instincts take over and knowing when to go all in and going in trying to call that bull that this is the right setup, or trying to move in front of him and knowing that the wind's right and this is going to work out. Like, there's so much guesswork into it that you almost have to trust your own intuition when you're hunting them.
Yeah, and you get it wrong a lot. When we first started Sportsman's News, I wasn't going to take all of my money from the mortgage business and dump it in because I had partners. So I said, well, I'm going to guide a little bit for a few of these outfitters and people that I'd hunted with, and I'm going to gather content that way. So that was kind of how we generated some of that. Well, when you're doing a lot of guiding, and I did a bunch here in Utah, a bunch in Colorado, we got a lot of Eastern people that were coming out west, Pennsylvania and stuff, where, they're great world-class whitetail hunters, but they're a fish out of water when it comes to elk hunting, usually, unless they've been out a few times. And it would be amazing when we would be there with elk and you'd hear a bugle, and I'd know that thing's, half a mile away. Let's go. And they wanted to sit down and call right then. I'm like, no. You get to the point you're about dragging them by the ear, going, let's go. We're going to go right up there and get in their wheelhouse. And I was used to always hunting with my buddies. So, I'd go stick them in front of me, 30, 40 yards, and I'd call and stand back there and try and suck them by. And, sure enough, that bull would walk right by them. And I had numerous clients that, the elk is 2 feet from them and they never came to full draw at times. So they don't have that knowledge of, when do you draw, when do you do that stuff. And, my philosophy when you're chasing elk with a bow like that is, if you're not busting some elk out, you're not pushing it hard enough and you're not truly giving yourself enough chance to be successful, because you're going to bust some elk out if you're really trying to kill a really big bull and you're trying to get in there. It's amazing what you can get away with elk that you can't get away with mule deer. Definitely couldn't get away with whitetail for sure, but you can come to full draw and you can step out with that diaphragm call in your mouth, and when that bull busts and you don't drop your, go ahead and release the arrow or let your draw down, you just let out a nice soft cow call. He's going to run about 10 yards usually and turn around and give you that nice quartering away shot that you want. But that comes from years of experience and not being freaked out and scared with the situation and just pushing the envelope.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad to hear that you hunt them the same way as I do. Elk are meant to be hunted aggressively. You have to go get into them, and you don't want to be reckless and bust every elk out of the country, but you do have to break a few break a few eggs to make an omelet. You're going to have to spook a few elk to go get into the herd and go get into the party and get into that bull. And yeah, mule deer is more of a patience game and waiting to go all in. And elk is too, as you're traveling with them, choosing to go all in. But I just feel like elk, you got to go get into them. Go see if you can make something happen. And so I I like it. It feels so primal because you just got to go get into the herd and let your instincts take over and hope you make the right moves. But it's all those years of experience of getting into them, knowing what you can get away with, knowing what you can't, knowing which wind that you can deal with and which wind you got to back out of. But man, I just love that. There's nothing more primal than going in on a herd of elk and trying to make something happen. But yeah, you got to hunt them aggressively. Like that's the way they're meant to be hunted. And they're nomadic by nature. A lot of times if you don't take your opportunity, they're going to move drainages or move draws or be in a different spot. So when you do see that opportunity, it's about trying to seize it. So I'm glad to hear that you hunt them the same way I do.
No, I hammer it hard, man. I've drugged some of those guys that were guiding in there, be like, stop, there's a spike right there. And I'm like, well, do you want to shoot it? No, but we're going to spook it. I'm like, I don't care. He's going to go the other way. When we get in there, because he's bordering the herd, we need to get in there and boot him out. And I've had more than one guy stop when we're done and either got it killed or blew him out. And I've blown plenty of them out, I can tell you, and have them say, you know what, I've learned more in a day of hunting with you doing this than I've done 3 or 4 personal on my own trips out here. So that's always gives you a good feeling. But, it goes back to that thing that, once you think you got it all figured out and absolutely everything there is to know, it's here's your pie.
Here's a full pie for you.
That's right.
Man, that is so true. And you bring up a good point, just like we talked about with guides, is learning. And there's so much information now out on podcasts and videos and things that you can watch, but also just hunting with good guys. And you don't even need to kill anything, but just seeing how they do things. Everybody's kind of got a little bit different approach and little bit some different tricks and tactics that they use. And so I think sometimes like just having good buddies that you can go hunting with, like you learn so much from them. And I also like bouncing ideas and theorizing about the hunt, like in the downtime, talking about what we did on the elk in that morning or where we're going to go next, and being able to bounce ideas off each other. It seems like you walk away from that hunt learning so much, just teaming up with a buddy or a group of friends, or even just meeting at camp at night. And it's so fun to share that experience with somebody. Like I love hunting solo, but I also love hunting with buddies and sharing that experience, because you can always look back on it, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, you're having a cold beer with them and you can reminisce about that hunt and all those elk you got into and that close call and then arrowing that bull and the pack out. Like I really enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, I enjoy the camps. I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm 51 now, I'm getting older. I mean, I like to go hard, but the sad thing is I'm getting to the point that I can't physically go as hard as I used to go. I still train. I do what I need to do to be able to get it done. But, when you're juggling everything with a family and a business and all the stuff to go with that, I just don't do what I used to. And, my grandfather said if I knew I was going to live so long, I'd have taken better care of myself. And I'm starting to see what he meant at that point in time. But I enjoy being around the camp and going and hunting. And like I said before, I don't always have to be the killer. I'm pretty good behind the glass. So a lot of times now I find myself, let's take some people in here that want to go get it done. And I'll share that knowledge. I love sharing the knowledge of what I have and what I've learned over that period of time. And I'm not going to say I don't like sticking an arrow in a big bull. Hopefully I get to do it in Nevada this year. But I sure enjoy the camp and that camaraderie side of things. That makes everything part of the hunt. It's just the camaraderie of who you're with on the hunt.
Man, it sure is. Well, and you talk about like getting older, and I'm still like young in my prime, but I know like at my age, I'm just far better hunter than I was in my 20s when I was, when I would go super hard. Like you get different advantages as you get older, and like your advantage now is your knowledge base. You've been hunting and hunting trophy critters for so many years and hunting, mule deer and elk and Alaska, New Zealand, all these different places, is now you get to use all that experience. And so I almost think like, your advantages just start to switch. Now your advantages, and you've made shots on big bulls and shots on big deer. Like you have all this confidence that you can rely upon now. And now it's your knowledge and your skill set that is your true advantage in the woods, I think.
Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, you can't go as fast, so you got to rely on those other tactics and everything that you've generated over the years. And it is fun to know that if I can find it, our chances of getting that thing killed are pretty darn good. And, it doesn't always work out that way for sure, but you sure feel a lot more confident when you go, you got a tag in your pocket, it's a unit where that grows big stuff. And then you find one, or you find two, you find three, you spend enough time scouting, you know how to scout, you know the unit, you go out there and you start tipping the odds in your favor that, hey, I've got 5, 6, 7, 8 animals on my hit list here. Your odds of being successful are pretty darn good. And it's not, like a lot of people think that all of a sudden you just really get lucky a lot.
Right? Once it turns into consistent success, it's you're making your own luck out there,
Yeah.
It's just finding those things, and I'm the same way with the bow. I need high opportunity spots, like just because I find one big deer doesn't mean I can kill that big deer. Like I've got a lot of confidence. I think I can move in, I can make an educated I can make a good plan and a good stock that's high percentage, but there's no guarantee that I'm going to kill that deer. So, I may have to find a couple good deer during a hunt just to tip the odds in my favor that I'll get one right. You said it at the beginning of the podcast, is that, you do fail a lot, and moving in on those elk, you might find the bull you want. There's no guarantee that you're going to run an arrow through them. Like, you may have to find them again and again, or find a secondary bull, or just keep creating that opportunity.
Yeah, the more opportunities you got in hand, the better off you're going to be, and that just comes with spending more time in the woods and knowing what you're doing.
Oh yeah, and believing in what you're doing, right? Is like a lot of, when you first start hunting, you don't know what the right moves are. But once you start to harvest a few, just like you said, when you find a buck, you've got confidence that you can put yourself in a good shooting position and get them killed and make the right decisions. Like a lot of these new hunters out there, and you realize that when you hunt with kids or less experienced hunters, it's just not second nature to them. It all has to be learned, and we just don't realize that we've been learning for 20 years or 25 years of gathering this knowledge and this experience. So it comes second nature. But I really think, like, believing in your process and believing in your game plan. Like, I've got a game plan when I go hunt high country muleys. I want to locate them, I want to bed them, and then I want to bed them in their second beds, and then I want to come above them with a good thermal wind in my face. And so I've got all these things and these things that I'm looking for. So I know when a buck's put himself in a bad spot, and I believe I can get into range and kill him. But I think, like, knowing when they're in a bad spot or knowing when to go all in is such a huge. It's so advantageous as a hunter, and it's just gathering that information, getting that experience, learning from the medias that are out there.
Well, and it's amazing to watch people, because I do get to see people of all different skill sets being, with the sweepstakes and the pro membership and traveling with so many different people as hunters. And it's surprising how many people I see and talk to and am on hunts with that they have not generated a skill set. I mean, I've found guys that are significantly older than I am and don't necessarily have a skill set. They'll hunt once a year out there, and it's their family vacation, and now all of a sudden they've won this world-class trip. They don't have that knowledge or the ability to go get it done. Like I had a guy that won a trip a few years ago. It was a really great elk hunt here in Utah. And he said, what should I expect on the hunt? I said, you're going to expect probably a shot that's, 200 to 400 yards. The farther you can shoot, the better. But when it comes time to it, I want to know, shooting off of sticks, seated, how far can you shoot? Because I was kind of helping guide on that and film. We had a couple of us on that trip because it was local and so close. And we got up there, and he showed up. And I said, so how far can you shoot on sticks? And what kind of sticks you got? He goes, well, I haven't had time to get any sticks. Well, it had been almost 6 months since he had won this hunt. And so I got him my sticks, and lo and behold, the first night we had an opportunity at the biggest bull I've ever seen on that ranch at 320 yards downhill. And we literally almost shot a box of shells at this thing and ran out of light before. And it wasn't like he was all over the place. So he never got that skill set. He didn't practice. He didn't take that seriously. So the fact that you learn from each individual experience and put that in the filing cabinet like I do, it just makes you better down the road to be, okay, I did this a couple years ago. A buck was laying in a similar place. I know that I'm going to go, this is how I'm going to approach that. And, it could be right and it could very well be wrong, but one more thing in the file folder to tag back into in the future to know that, hey, this worked this time, this didn't, what went wrong?
Yeah, it is. Again, it's dropping your ego and looking at the situation and looking where you made mistakes, and then don't dwell on them, but improve from them. Learn from it. I think like we talked about, learning in life. I think it's the same thing on those stocks and learning from your mistakes and getting better. Like you say, it just gets filed away in the filing cabinet, and the next time you come up against it, you tend to make a better move or a better play on them. So yeah, I think that's a big part of getting better is just learning from it and having that mindset of always trying to improve.
Yeah, we have a luxury that we get to spend a lot of time in the woods, and I used to take that a little bit for granted. I don't anymore. Last year I spent more than I wanted to. I spent over 200 days in the woods and with a lot of different people, a lot of different guides, and a lot of time personally. But you learn a lot when you spend that much time chasing your quarry and learning them.
Experience is the best teacher, isn't it?
Truly the best teacher, man. I learned a lot from the bad experiences, and I'm pretty sure I've made every mistake at least a couple of dozen times. So I was a Marine, and Marines don't have a tendency to be that smart. I did eat my crayons quite a few times.
Yeah, thanks for your service. And military guys, they have such a great approach on life, though, and such a great attitude. Like, so much of it is just making up your mind that you want to get better and that you want to improve. And that's one of the skills that it seems like Marines and military servicemen definitely have in common.
Yeah, about half of my office is military people. They want to work hard. They want to get her. And if, something goes wrong and you yell at them, they don't have a tendency to go cry and want to quit. And we don't have any snowflakes in my office. They don't do real well. They get melted.
Well, it teaches such good discipline and just so many good traits that carry over in the rest of your life, and they just teach it and give it to you where like a lot of us civilians, we either learn it or we don't, and I just think it gives you such a great skill set for life. Like it's I just see that common trait in you guys when I talk with you guys and have in-depth conversations.
Well, it's a lot of fun. It taught me a lot. I did 8 years of service, and I've took that knowledge and plugged it all into what I do with every business, and charge full speed ahead and make a whole lot of mistakes, and hopefully you come out successful on the end. And so far, I haven't failed too bad.
Yeah, well, and enjoying it along the way.
Yeah, definitely enjoying it along the way. Like I said, I don't feel like I've worked a day the last 15 years, and my wife would disagree. I work a lot, so.
Well, when you love to do it, it just isn't work. And no, I'm the same way. Well, Mike, can you believe we did well over an hour and 20 minutes already?
Wow, that's amazing. It's been absolutely a great time and fun to share experiences and time with you and knowledge. I always learn a lot listening up to the podcasts, and hopefully some of your listeners picked up a thing or two and a tidbit that helps make them a better hunter. And nothing else, keep listening, and it's awesome. What you're doing is absolutely fantastic, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, just our conversations before the podcast and then this episode. It's just been great. Like, I've learned from it and taken things away, so I know my audience will and will connect with it. But, yeah, I just really appreciate you taking the time and sharing. And let's keep in touch and see if we can put a hunt together one of these days, and definitely get you back on the podcast after you draw that Nevada tag and kill that 400-inch bull.
Awesome, man. I'll be happy to do it. We won't be able to pull that off during hunting season. I'm sure we'll be having the same scramble we did last year, but let's plan it after hunting season settles down.
Yeah, when we find some off season. So no, it sounds like a plan. Thanks again. I really appreciate it, man. We'll keep in touch.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Fun podcast with Mike. Gosh, I really enjoyed getting to meet that guy and getting to know him. And the guy is just a consistent killer. He really knows what he's talking about. I asked for a promotional picture for the podcast, and he sent me like 12 of them, and they were all just giant trophies. So the guy's been doing it for years, a ton of experience, and a good friend to Eastmans. And so definitely have him back on the podcast in the future. Sponsor for today's show, Zamberlan Boots. Again, I'm really excited about the boots that they produce. I've been using them for the last couple years. This year, I'm trying a new model, the 320 Trail Light. I think it's going to be perfect for the mountains, but they've got stiffer mountaineering boots. They've got lighter soles. I'm actually going to try a pair of their tennis shoes for lower land hunts this year. So they've got a bunch of cool products, so make sure to check them out. Thanks to Zamberlan. I also want to thank Yeti for their support of the podcast. Yeti has just changed the way I hunt. Those high-end quality coolers, like I never believed they'd make that much of a difference, but they do. You just keep ice longer. You can keep food longer. You can have good food on extended hunts. You can keep ice to ice down your if you end up killing and you got another buddy hunting, you can get that meat on ice, get it cooled down, especially during our hot bow seasons. They got their tumblers, their thermoses. They've got soft-sided cooler bags, which I just got, which I'm going to be using when I travel, to Hawaii, when I travel to Alaska, and just use it all the time in the boat or wherever I'm going. So just some great products. Thanks to Yeti for sponsoring the podcast. Over there at Eastmans, make sure to be on the lookout for that Nevada episode. Really pumped how that one came out. It's on the Outdoor channel. Nothing on the internet for that one right now. And yeah, we just got some good products coming out. Be on the lookout for the new Beyond the Grids. Dan Picard, Guy Eastman, they do such a great job at the Beyond the Grids. And I have that Alaskan caribou hunt. They did an episode out of that one. So that one's on the Beyond the Grid internet TV show. Be on the lookout for new articles coming in the magazine. We're just really putting our heads together and trying to just come up with those next level articles that really help you become a better hunter. So if you're interested in a subscription, you can text Elevated 319 to 22828. And again, I really appreciate your guys' support on this promo code. It just shows Eastman's the kind of community that we're building and the passionate followers that we have here on the podcast. So just super psyched on that. Like I got an attaboy email the other day for the promo code. So I'm just really excited about it. It pulls weight for me. And then also, like, you guys are getting such a good deal in that magazine. Like, I am a fan of the magazine every month when it shows up. I read it cover to cover and have since I was 20 years old. So it's just such a great publication and a great company to work for. So thanks to those guys for everything they do. Thanks to you guys for everything you do, listening to the podcast. Subscribe and rate in the podcast and then also support over social media and things. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. I think that's the only ones I do. But yeah, that's it. With that, I'm going to get out and do a little bear hunting. It's been so good here lately. I've been on some good bears, been sorting through a lot of mediums and smalls, but I think my count's to 19 so far this season. 3 shooters. I still feel it in my quads. Are blown up from this last bear I went on. Had to drop about 2,000 feet, which I thought I was used to, but I just dropped it at such a quick pace. Like trying to sprint down the mountain to go make a play on this bear and make time on him and then climb up the other side 1,000 feet. He was in the perfect spot, perfect approach, crick bottom making noise as I'm coming in, downhill thermal coming right down the draw, which it wasn't a downhill thermal over there even when I got on that side hill, but I just knew what it was doing in that little canyon, and sure enough, straight down the hill, crick noise, creep in, and he's just nowhere to be found, just wandered off being a bear, but just a great big jet black. And I also saw a blonde boar that day that was a good one. Best blonde boar I've seen in a while. Just big old belly on him and big head. Like I don't know if it was a super giant, or I know it wasn't a super giant, but it was definitely a good mature one that I'd run an arrow through. So super psyched to see him. I got Dan Heverns down right now. Try to get him on for a podcast, but we're going to do some bear hunting here the next couple days and through the weekend. So I'm going to haul him around to do a little work here today, and then get out and try to keep finding these things. It's such a fun season to be out, and it I know bear hunting seems like a black magic. In fact, I got to put together another bear podcast. I've got a really good guy to do it that has been guiding spring bears for the last 9 or 10 years. He's just a spring bear fanatic, and so be fun to get him on the podcast. But I've been exploring this year and going to new country, looking at new drainages. I'm just trying to find that epic next bear spot, and it's not that my spots don't produce, but it's there's some higher populations, and a big bear has to grow up for 10 to 15 years to be fully mature. And so those bears aren't in every drainage or around every corner. And so you got to find some of those spots that are tucked back in or back away from, where guys don't get to, or spots where I haven't been and chased them all around. So looking at a lot of new spots for bear season, just super psyched on it. Super psyched for fall. I haven't drawn anything yet in any state, which is crazy, but I got a couple good results coming up. I'm really looking forward to the Colorado results, the Nevada results, and the Wyoming results for deer. So we'll see what we get there, and I've always got backup plans and over-the-counters. There's just such great hunting across the western states, and a good bull or a good buck can be found in nearly every unit. So definitely looking forward to fall, and hopefully I'll see a successful draw next to my name in the future. So it's tough out there in the real world, as you guys know. So good luck in the draws. Keep working hard towards your goals. That's a wrap. I'm going to get out bear hunting. Check in with you guys next week.